The clock ticks closer to "I do." She floats towards her soulmate at the altar in a gorgeous white dress. But as she draws near, her smile morphs to confusion. Where is he? Panic sets in as the truth unravels. He's gone. Left sobbing at the altar by her runaway groom, Amanda's perfect fairy tale wedding shatters in an instant. From blissful romance to devastating betrayal, this emotional, viral story captures it all. This gripping true story comes from a now viral Reddit post. Names have been changed for privacy. Follow Amanda's inspiring journey of healing and the twists of fate that bring her runaway groom crawling back. But has he changed? Does Amanda take him back or turn the tables? Immerse yourself in this gripping tale of love, regret, and redemption. Full of lessons about loyalty and nurturing relationships, this powerful story reminds us to think carefully before burning bridges. Amanda took a deep breath as she stepped out of the limousine, smoothing the skirt of her white wedding dress. This was it. After 5 years of dating Mark, they were finally getting married. As she walked up the steps of the church, Amanda thought back over their relationship. They had met at a mutual friend's party and hit it off instantly. Mark was handsome, charming, and adventurous. Everything Amanda had been looking for. The first few years were blissful. They went on romantic getaways, tried new activities together, and supported each other's careers. Amanda was sure Mark was the one. Though she longed for a child, Mark didn't seem ready yet. Amanda told herself they had plenty of time for that later. But after year 3, cracks began to show. Mark grew distant, working late more often and letting his share of chores slide. Amanda tried to talk to him about it, but he brushed off her concerns. She started to worry he was having second thoughts about their future. Still, Amanda held out hope. Mark always came through for her in the end. She was sure once they got married, things would go back to how they used to be. As Amanda entered the church, her father took her arm, beaming with pride. She glanced around at the decorated pews filled with friends and family. Amanda felt a pang, noticing Mark's side of the aisle was sparsely populated. He'd been oddly resistant to planning for the wedding, leaving most of the work to her. She pushed the thought from her mind as the music swelled. This was her day. Nothing could ruin it. Amanda floated down the aisle, keeping her eyes locked on the altar. She knew the moment she saw Mark's face, all anxiety would disappear. He would take her hands, gaze lovingly into her eyes, and everything would be perfect. But as Amanda moved closer, her heart dropped. Mark wasn't there. Puzzled, she turned to her maid of honor, who could only shake her head in confusion. Amanda scanned the church, but Mark was nowhere to be seen. At the front, the minister cleared his throat awkwardly. It appears the groom has been delayed. Perhaps we should wait a few minutes. Amanda nodded numbly, her mind racing. Where was Mark? Cold fear trickled down her spine. Something was wrong. 20 excruciating minutes passed before the minister approached again, regret in his eyes. "I'm sorry, my dear, but we cannot delay any longer. We will have to postpone the ceremony until we locate Mark." Tears stung Amanda's eyes as she was escorted back down the aisle, her dream wedding collapsing around her. Wherever Mark was, she knew in her heart he would not be coming. In the hours that followed, the truth emerged in bits and pieces. Mark had met another woman at his job months ago. He had gotten her pregnant, rented an apartment across town, and made plans to move several states away and start over. Rather than face Amanda, he had slipped away the night before, leaving only a note of apology. Amanda was devastated. Her closest friends and family rallied around her, but she felt lost in grief and anger. She was grateful for their support, but there was a hole in her heart no one could fill. In the lonely weeks that followed, Amanda plunged into work, avoiding the pitying glances of those around her. Planning a canceled wedding was nothing compared to having your heart broken so callously. Amanda's sadness turned to fury at Mark's betrayal. How could she not have seen? Their whole relationship now felt like a sham. 6 months later, the final blow came. Amanda learned from a mutual friend that Mark's mistress had given birth to a healthy baby boy. He was playing at Happy Family while she picked up the pieces he had left behind. The pain threatened to swallow Amanda whole, but she refused to let Mark destroy her future too. She began opening up to friends again, pursuing hobbies she enjoyed and taking better care of herself. Slowly but surely, Amanda healed. She would never forget, but she could move forward. It was on a sunny April morning that her life changed again. Amanda was hurrying to make a job interview, distracted and running late. In her haste, she turned a corner and collided with a tall man, spilling the contents of her bag everywhere. "I'm so sorry," she exclaimed, mortified. But the man just laughed good-naturedly and bent to help pick up her things. Amanda couldn't help noticing he was handsome, tall and slender, with warm brown eyes and a kind smile. His name was David, she learned, as they chatted and gathered her scattered items. Before parting ways, David handed Amanda his business card. "I'd love to make it up to you over coffee sometime," he said with a twinkle in his eye. Amanda blushed and agreed. Over the next few months, Amanda was amazed to find herself falling for David. He was a wealthy entrepreneur who radiated gentle wisdom. With him, she felt truly seen and cared for. It was a stark contrast to the false charm Mark had wielded to disguise his lies. David supported her dreams in a way Mark never had. He accompanied Amanda to art gallery openings and gave brilliant critiques of her photographs. When she worried over money, David offered to invest in her business. For the first time, Amanda felt like she had a true partner. There was only one shadow over their relationship. Amanda was unable to have children. A fertility test had confirmed that scarring from a teenage medical procedure made pregnancy extremely unlikely. She broached the topic with David nervously, afraid her inability to have kids would be a deal-breaker. To her relief, David was unfazed. "I love you for you," he reassured, kissing her gently. Adoption or fostering were always options down the road if they wished. Though Amanda still felt a twinge at the loss, she knew David cared more about her than hypothetical children. On the one-year anniversary of their first meeting, David took Amanda back to the spot where they collided. As they laughed over the memory, he lowered onto one knee and proposed. Amanda joyfully accepted, tears of happiness streaming down her face. The wedding was small but beautiful, full of people who had helped Amanda heal. She wore a simple white sheath dress, accented with colorful wildflowers. As David's warm hands grasped hers at the altar, Amanda's wounded heart felt whole once more. This was how it was meant to be. While Amanda found her happily ever after, Mark's new life was unraveling. The high of his affair had worn off quickly once real life set in. His mistress, Melanie, was demanding and hot-tempered. All the things he'd found mysterious and alluring at first now exhausted him. She had no interest in cooking or keeping house, expecting Mark to pick up the slack while she socialized. Their son was a colicky, high-maintenance baby who cried endlessly. Mark felt trapped. He began to miss Amanda terribly. She would never have allowed their home to become so disorganized. Her nurturing nature and patience had always balanced Mark's weaknesses. Guilt ate at him. Why had he thrown it all away for Melanie? These days she barely paid attention to him anyway. Late one night after a bad argument, Melanie stormed out, leaving newborn Cody screaming in his crib. Too tired to soothe his son, Mark laid on the couch, brooding. He pulled up Amanda's social media page, staring longingly at her photos. There she was, baking cookies with her sisters, looking radiant at a tropical resort, smiling in a gorgeous wedding gown. Mark bolted upright. Wedding gown? Amanda was married? He scrolled in disbelief. According to the date, it had only been a year since he left her. How was this possible? Mark's chest constricted with panic and regret. Surely no one could replace him so easily. In a fog, he researched Amanda's new husband, some young entrepreneur named David. Mark cringed at photos of the happy couple, jealousy raging within him. How could Amanda move on while he was miserable? Mark began fantasizing about winning Amanda back. She had loved him once. Maybe part of her still did. He could show up declaring his mistakes and apologizing profusely. Amanda was kind-hearted. She would forgive him. They could be a family again. Consumed by desperation, Mark withdrew his life savings and bought a plane ticket home. He rented a car and raced to Amanda's neighborhood, only to find her house had been sold. After some digging, he discovered she lived clear across town now in an elite gated community. Gathering his courage, Mark waited outside the entrance for a glimpse of Amanda. Finally, her shiny new luxury SUV pulled out of the driveway. His old sedan sticking out like a sore thumb in the parking lot. This was his chance. Amanda emerged in expensive yoga pants, walking arm in arm with a muscular man, presumably her new husband. Before Mark lost his nerve, he approached her. "Amanda, it's me, Mark." She froze, her expression icy. "I know who you are. What are you doing here?" Mark shrank under her glare but pressed on. "Listen, I made a huge mistake leaving you. I never should have hurt you, but I've changed. Please, Amanda, take me back. We can make this work." Amanda looked at him sadly. "You didn't change, Mark. You just got tired of your new toy. I loved you, but you threw it all away. I've mourned what we had, but I've moved on. I'm happy now and expecting a child soon." She placed a hand gently on her belly. Mark's face paled. A child. With her medical issues, Amanda had never been able to carry a baby before. But somehow this new man had given her what Mark could not. Amanda's handsome husband stepped forward and put a protective arm around her. They exchanged a loving look that pierced Mark's heart. He had no role in her life anymore. The family and future he dreamed of belonged to someone else now. As he drove away, Mark wiped bitter tears from his eyes. He had no one to blame but himself. Amanda had moved heaven and earth to make him happy once, but he'd thrown it all away for fleeting passion. Now he was alone, while Amanda's life was richer and fuller than ever. She had healed from the wounds he inflicted, while his might never fully mend. Mark returned home empty-handed, having lost Amanda forever. She leaned happily against her husband as they watched his car disappear. At long last, she felt free. We sincerely hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. It would be amazing fuel to keep us sharing impactful stories with important takeaways. We're thankful for each of you taking the time to watch and engage.